The morning sun cast long shadows across the space station as Captain Jake Morrison walked through the corridors of Earth's Defense Command. It was supposed to be a routine day. It's the kind of day where the biggest worry was whether the coffee machine in the break room would work properly. Jake had been in the Space Force for 15 years, and most of that time had been spent dealing with paperwork and training exercises. Everything changed. When the alarm started screaming, Jake ran to the command center where dozens of officers were staring at their screens in shock. A massive display at the front of the room showed something that made his blood run cold. Ships. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. They were coming out of hyperspace all around Earth, moving in perfect formation, like a deadly dance. "Sir, we're picking up energy signatures unlike anything we've ever seen," said Lieutenant Lisa Park, her voice shaking. She was young, maybe 25, and this was her first real assignment. "These ships are huge. The smallest one is twice the size of our biggest battleship." Jake looked at the tactical display. Earth's entire defense fleet consisted of 47 ships. They were good ships, built with the best technology humanity had developed. But compared to what was approaching, they looked like toys. "Where did they come from?" Jake asked. "Unknown, sir. They just appeared. No warning, no previous contact. Our deep space sensors didn't detect anything until they were already here." The largest ship in the alien fleet was enormous. It was shaped like a crystal, all smooth surfaces and sharp angles that seemed to bend light around them. Jake had never seen anything so beautiful or so terrifying. "Communications are coming in," announced Officer Ryan Cole from his station. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies." "What?" "Put it through." The main screen flickered and changed. A face appeared that made everyone in the room take a step back. The creature was tall, maybe 8 feet, with blue-scaled skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Its eyes were bright red, like burning coals, and when it spoke, its voice was deep and cold. "Primitive species of the third planet from your star," the alien said. The words came through perfectly clear, which meant they had already learned human languages. "I am Commander Vextel of the Zephyrian Empire. For 3,000 of your years, we have ruled this galaxy. Every species that has reached for the stars has knelt before us or been destroyed." The way this creature spoke, like humans were nothing more than insects to be stepped on, made anger burn in his chest. "You have developed the ability to travel faster than light," Vexel continued. "This makes you a threat to the natural order. You will submit to Zephyrian authority immediately. Your military forces will stand down. Your governments will surrender. Your people will become servants of the Empire." The alien's red eyes seemed to look directly at Jake through the screen. "You have one rotation of your world to decide. Submit, or face the same fate as the other species who chose to resist. Total extinction." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in complete silence. Jake looked around at his officers. These were good people. They had families, dreams, hopes for the future. Some of them had children who were just learning to walk. Others had parents who remembered when humanity first reached the moon. All of them were looking at him, waiting for orders. Sir Ryan said quietly, "Our intelligence computers are analyzing their fleet. The numbers are not good, tell me. Best estimate is that they have over 2,000 ships in this system alone. Their technology appears to be centuries ahead of ours. Our weapons might not even be able to damage their shields." Jake walked to the window that looked out over Earth. The planet looked so peaceful from here. Blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown continents. Billions of people down there going about their daily lives, not knowing that their entire future was about to change. "What about other human colonies?" Jake asked. "We've lost contact with Mars Base, Luna City, and all the outer settlements," Lisa reported. "Either they've been destroyed or captured." Jake thought about his sister Mary, who lived on Mars with her 2 kids. He thought about his old friend Pete, who ran a mining operation near Jupiter. Were they already dead? Were they prisoners? "Sir, we're receiving reports from around the globe," another officer called out. "The alien ships are positioning themselves over every major city. London, Tokyo, New York, Moscow, Beijing. They're not hiding, they want everyone to see them." Jake could imagine what was happening down on Earth. People would be looking up at the sky. seeing these massive ships floating above their cities like storm clouds. The news would be going crazy. Governments would be in emergency sessions. Parents would be holding their children close. What are our options? Jake asked. Ryan pulled up a tactical analysis on his screen. We could try to evacuate key personnel to the underground bunkers. Maybe save some of our technology and knowledge for future generations. Or we could try to negotiate, see if we can work out some kind of deal. Jake shook his head. What about fighting? The room went quiet again. Everyone knew the numbers. Earth's defense fleet against thousands of alien ships. It would be like throwing rocks at a tank. Sir, Lisa said carefully, it would be suicide. It might take down a few of their ships, but they'd destroy us completely. And then they'd probably take revenge on the civilian population. Jake walked back to the command chair and sat down. Thought about his training. It's about all the years he'd spent learning to protect Earth. He thought about the oath he'd taken when he joined the Space Force. To defend humanity against all threats, foreign and domestic. Send a message to all Earth defense stations, Jake said finally. Tell them to prepare for battle, Sir Ryan asked in surprise. You heard me? Send word to every ship, every station, every outpost. We're going to fight. But sir, the odds. I know the odds, Jake interrupted. But I also know something else. For millions of years, humans have been fighting for survival. We fought against wild animals with nothing but sticks and stones. We fought against disease, against starvation, against each other. We've never been the strongest or the fastest or the smartest, but we've never given up. He stood up and looked at each of his officers. These aliens think they know us. They think we're just another primitive species that will roll over and die. But they're wrong. We're humans. And humans don't surrender. Lisa was the first to smile. Then Ryan nodded. One by one, the rest of the crew straightened up and returned to their stations. Communications, send this message to the alien fleet, Jake ordered. Tell Commander Vextel that humanity refuses his demands.
Ow.
Tell him that Earth will never surrender. And tell him that if he wants this planet, he's going to have to take it from us. As the message went out, Jake looked at the tactical display. Again, the alien ships were moving into attack formation. In a few hours, maybe less, the shooting would start. Earth's defense fleet would probably be destroyed. But maybe, just maybe, they could show these aliens that humans were not as easy to kill as they thought. All ships. This is Captain Morrison, Jake announced over the fleet communications. Today, we fight not just for Earth, but for the future of humanity. We may not win this battle, but we'll make sure they remember us. The war for Earth was about to begin. 3 months had passed since the space battle above Earth ended in disaster. Captain Jake Morrison's defense fleet had lasted exactly 18 hours against the Zephyrian Empire. The alien ships had destroyed every human vessel in space, then turned their weapons on the planet below. Major cities burned. Military bases vanished in flashes of blue light. The conventional war was over before it really began, but the real war was just getting started, Major. Kate Sullivan crouched behind a pile of rubble that used to be a coffee shop in downtown Manhattan. The morning air was thick with smoke and dust. Somewhere in the distance, she could hear the low humming of Zephyrian patrol drones searching for survivors. The aliens had occupied Earth, but they were learning that holding a planet was much harder than conquering it. Contact 2 blocks north, whispered Sergeant Tony Martinez through her earpiece. He was positioned on the roof of a damaged apartment building, watching the street through a scope. 3 alien soldiers, moving slow. Kate smiled grimly. The Zephyrians were always moving slow now. In the first weeks after the invasion, they had walked through human cities like they owned them. Now they jumped at shadows and checked every corner twice. Good fear was a weapon, and humans knew how to use it. Are they wearing the heavy armor? Kate asked. Yeah, full combat gear. They're scared. Kate pulled out her radio and switched to the resistance frequency. This is Shadow 6. We have 3 targets in Sector 7. Anyone in position? Shadow 6. This is Ghost Team. We're ready. Kate waited, as the Zephyrians had technology that was centuries ahead of human science. Their weapons could cut through steel like paper. Their armor could stop bullets that would destroy tanks. But they had one weakness that humans had figured out quickly. They were predictable. The explosion came exactly when Kate expected it. A homemade bomb hidden in a trash can sent one of the aliens flying. The other two took cover behind a car and started shooting at the building where they thought the attack came from. Blue energy beams cut through concrete and steel, but they were shooting at empty air. The real attack came from behind. Two resistance fighters with captured alien weapons appeared from a sewer grate and opened fire. The Zephyrians spun around, but it was too late. Both aliens went down, their advanced armor useless against their own technology. "Targets down," Tony reported. "Nice work, everyone." Kate stood up and brushed dust off her uniform. It was not really a uniform anymore. After 3 months of fighting in ruins and sewers, it looked more like rags, but it still had the flag patch on the shoulder, and that was what mattered. "Collect their weapons and gear," she ordered. "Then we disappear before reinforcements arrive." This was how the resistance worked. Hit hard, hit fast, then vanish. The Zephyrians were masters of space warfare, but they had never learned to fight an enemy that refused to stand still and fight fair. Every human civilian was a potential soldier. Every building could hide a sniper. Every tunnel and sewer system had become a highway for resistance fighters. Kate made her way through the underground tunnels that connected Manhattan to the main resistance base in Brooklyn. The tunnels were dark and smelled terrible, but they were safe. The aliens had tried to map them in the first month, but humans had been digging tunnels under cities for hundreds of years. There were passages that did not appear on any map, routes that only the resistance knew about. The base was hidden in an old subway station that had been abandoned for decades. When Kate arrived, she found it buzzing with activity. Resistance. Fighters were cleaning weapons, planning attacks, and sharing information about alien movements. Out. At the center of it all was Colonel Bill Harper, the man who had taken command of the New York resistance after the government fell. "Kate, good timing," Bill said when he saw her. "We just got word from Chicago. General Hayes has a new assignment for us." Kate had heard of General Patricia Hayes. Before the invasion, she had been in charge of special operations for the entire military. Now she was running the resistance from underground bunkers, coordinating attacks across the whole planet. General Hayes wanted something done. It was important. "What's the mission?" Kate asked. "The aliens are building something big in Central Park. Our scouts say it looks like some kind of communication array. If we can destroy it, it might disrupt their ability to coordinate with their ships in space." Kate nodded. She had noticed. "More alien activity in that area lately?" The Zephyrians were trying to turn Earth into a proper colony, which meant they needed to build infrastructure. Every building project was a target for the resistance. "What's the plan?" "We're going to hit them from 3 directions at once. Your team will create a distraction on the east side. Teams from Queens and the Bronx will attack from the north and south. While they're busy with us, a special team will plant explosives on the main structure." Kate studied the map that Bill spread out on the table. Central Park was heavily guarded now. The aliens had learned to protect their important installations after losing too many facilities to human attacks. This would not be easy. "How many aliens are we talking about?" she asked. "Intel says at least 50 soldiers plus automated defenses. And they've got air support nearby." Kate whistled softly. 50 alien soldiers was a lot. In the early days of the occupation, that many Zephyrians could have conquered an entire city. But the resistance had learned their weaknesses. Alien soldiers were strong and well-armed, but they were also rigid in their thinking. They followed procedures and protocols. Humans were chaotic, unpredictable, and willing to try anything. "Do we go?" Kate asked. "Tomorrow night, get your team ready." Kate spent the next day preparing her fighters. Her team was a mix of former soldiers and civilian volunteers. There was Danny Foster, a mechanic who had learned to build bombs from old car parts. Linda Scott, a teacher who had become one of the best snipers in the resistance. Mike Chen, a computer programmer who specialized in hacking alien technology. None of them were professional soldiers, but they all had one thing in common. They hated the aliens with a passion that burned like fire. "Remember," Kate told them as they prepared to leave, "we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to cause chaos and confusion. Hit them hard, make noise, then get out before they can organize a response. The attack began at midnight. Kate's team came out of the sewers on the east side of the park and immediately opened fire on the alien guards. The Zephyrians responded exactly as expected, calling for backup and establishing a defensive perimeter while they were focused. On the obvious threat, the other teams struck from different directions. The battle was loud and brutal. Alien energy weapons lit up the night sky. Human explosives shook the ground. But slowly, the resistance fighters began to push the aliens back. The Zephyrians were better armed and better armored, but they were also confused and scared. Had never faced an enemy that attacked from everywhere at once. In the middle of the chaos, the special team reached the communication array and planted their explosives. The blast was enormous, sending pieces of alien technology flying in all directions. The massive structure collapsed in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. "Target destroyed," came the report over the radio.
Nice.
All teams withdraw immediately. Kate and her fighters melted back into the tunnels and sewers, leaving the aliens to count their losses. The resistance had won another victory, but Kate knew it was just one small battle in a much larger war. As she made her way back to the base, Kate thought about what they had accomplished. The aliens were learning to fear humans, but humans were also learning to fight back. Every attack made the resistance stronger and more confident. Every victory showed other people around the world that the aliens could be beaten. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years, but they had never faced anything like humanity. No, and slowly, one battle at a time, the humans were teaching them that some planets were harder to hold than others. Dr. Amanda Wright stared at the glowing screen in front of her, barely believing what she was seeing. After 6 months of working in the underground laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains, she'd finally found something that might change everything. The fragment of alien technology on her desk looked like a piece of broken glass, but it was actually part of a Zephyrian shield generator. "Steve, you need to see this," she called to her research partner across the lab. Dr. Steve Chen rolled his chair over to Amanda's workstation. The laboratory was hidden deep underground, powered by geothermal energy so the aliens could not detect it. 50% of Earth's best scientists worked here around the clock, trying to understand the technology that had conquered their planet. "What did you find?" Steve asked, adjusting his glasses. Amanda pointed to the energy readings on her screen. "Look at these quantum resonance patterns. Every piece of Zephyrian technology we've analyzed shows the same signature. Their shields, their weapons, their engines, everything operates on the same basic frequency." Steve leaned closer. "That's impossible. No civilization would make all their technology so similar. It would create a single point of failure." "That's exactly what I thought," Amanda said. "But look at this data. I've tested fragments from 12 different ships, and they all show identical patterns. The Zephyrians have standardized their technology to an incredible degree." Steve whistled softly, which means if we can disrupt that frequency, it could potentially disable their entire fleet, Amanda finished. Their shields, their weapons, maybe even their life support systems. For the first time since the invasion began, Amanda felt a spark of hope. The Zephyrians had seemed invincible, but even the strongest armor had weak points. And after months of study, she had found theirs. 300 miles away. Commander Alex Turner crouched in the shadows outside a Zephyrian supply depot in Colorado. His team of Navy SEALs had been operating behind enemy lines for weeks, gathering intelligence and striking targets of opportunity. Tonight's mission was different. They were not just looking to cause damage. They were looking for prisoners. "Remember, we need at least one of them alive," Alex whispered to his team. "Intelligence says they have a scientist who was captured during the invasion. If we can get her back, it might be worth the risk." Sergeant Carl Davis nodded from his position near the fence. The depot was heavily guarded, but the SEALs had learned to exploit alien blind spots. The Zephyrians were excellent at space combat, but they had never learned to fight in the chaotic environment of ground warfare. "Motion sensors show 3 guards on the north wall," reported Corporal Jenny White through her earpiece. Following a predictable patrol pattern, Alex smiled grimly. That was the problem with the aliens. They were too disciplined, too organized. They followed the same routes, checked the same spots, and responded to threats in the same way every time. Humans were messy and unpredictable, which made them hard to fight. "Okay, everyone knows the plan," Alex said. "Go in quiet, grab the scientist, and get out. No unnecessary heroics." The team moved like shadows through the compound. They had studied Zephyrian security procedures for months, and they knew exactly where the weak points were. The aliens relied heavily on their technology, but they had never learned to expect the unexpected. The prison building was in the center of the compound, a crystalline structure that looked like it had grown from the ground. Alex and his team slipped past the automated defenses and found the holding cells. Most of them were empty, but in the last cell, they found what they were looking for. Dr. Helen Rodriguez looked up as the cell door opened. She was thin and pale after months of captivity, but her eyes were still bright with intelligence. "American soldiers?" she whispered. "That's right, ma'am," Alex said. "We're here to get you out." "Wait," Helen said as they helped her to her feet. "I've been listening to the guards. They're planning something big, some kind of new weapon system. I heard them talking about a test in 3 days. Alex felt his blood run cold. The aliens already had weapons that could destroy entire cities. If they were developing something even more powerful, it could mean the end of human resistance. "Can you tell us anything else?" he asked. They mentioned coordinates. Something about a facility in Nevada, and they kept saying a word in their language that sounded like Vorthok. I think it means final or ultimate. Alex made a mental note to pass this information to intelligence. But first, they needed to get out of the compound alive. "We'll debrief you later. Right now, we need to move." The escape was harder than the infiltration. The aliens had discovered the security breach and were flooding the compound with soldiers. Alex and his team had to fight their way out, using captured alien weapons and their knowledge of human tactics. "This way," Carl called, leading them toward a drainage tunnel that would take them outside the perimeter. "We've got about 2 minutes before they seal off this section." They made it to the tunnel just as Zephyrian reinforcements arrived. The aliens poured energy beams into the drainage system, but the humans were already gone, melting into the Colorado wilderness like ghosts. Back at the underground laboratory, Amanda was running her tests again, trying to make sure her discovery was real. The quantum resonance patterns were consistent across every sample. Zephyrians had created a technological empire based on standardization. But that same standardization was their weakness. "If we can build a device that generates the right frequency," she explained to Steve, "we should be able to disrupt their shields and weapons, at least temporarily." "How temporarily?" Steve asked. "Hard to say. Maybe a few minutes, maybe an hour. But even a short window could be enough for our fighters to do some real damage." Steve nodded. "We need to test this theory. Do we have any intact alien technology we can experiment on?" Amanda pointed to a workbench across the lab where several pieces of Zephyrian equipment sat under examination lights. "We've got part of a weapons system from the attack on Chicago. My theory is correct. We should be able to shut it down with the right frequency pulse." They spent the next hour setting up the test. Amanda had built a small device that could generate quantum resonance patterns. If she was right, it would disrupt the alien weapon long enough to prove her point. "Ready?" Steve asked. Amanda nodded and activated the device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the alien weapon began to flicker and spark. The energy readings dropped to 0, and the crystalline surface went dark. "It worked," Steve said in amazement. "The weapon is completely offline," Amanda felt. A surge of excitement. "How long?" Steve checked his timer. 17 minutes and counting. "The device is still disabled." Amanda grabbed her radio and switched to the command frequency. "This is Dr. Wright in the Colorado facility. I need to speak with General Hayes immediately. I think we've found a way to fight back." The response came within seconds. "Dr. Wright, this is General Hayes. What do you have for me?" "We've discovered a fundamental weakness in Zephyrian technology. Now, their systems operate on the same quantum frequency. If we can disrupt that frequency, we can disable their shields and weapons." There was a long pause. Then General Hayes spoke again, and Amanda could hear the excitement in her voice.
"How soon can you build a weapon-sized version of your device?" Give me 2 weeks and a team of engineers and I can build something that will work on individual.
Ships, give me 2 months and I can build something that will affect their entire fleet. You've got whatever you need, Doctor. This might be the breakthrough we've been waiting for. As Amanda ended the call, she looked at the disabled alien weapon on her workbench. For months, the Zephyrians had seemed unstoppable. Technology was superior, their weapons were deadly, and their shields were impenetrable. But they had made one crucial mistake. They had assumed that standardization was always a strength. Now humanity had found the crack in their armor. It was small, but it was enough. And as every human knew, sometimes the smallest weakness could bring down the mightiest enemy. The war was about to change. Captain Nick Johnson felt the familiar vibration of the Earth defense ship Liberty as it dropped out of hyperspace near Mars. 8 months ago, this would have been impossible. Human ships could barely reach the moon without breaking down. Now, his vessel was equipped with modified Zephyrian engines that his chief engineer had somehow made work with human technology. "Captain, we're detecting the alien fleet," reported Lieutenant Carol Davis from the tactical station. 12 ships in standard Zephyrian formation. They're moving toward the Mars colony. Nick nodded grimly. The Mars colony had been rebuilt. Twice since the invasion began. Each time the humans established a foothold, the aliens came to destroy it. But this time would be different. This time, humanity had a secret weapon. "Grace, is the frequency disruptor ready?" Nick asked over the intercom. Chief Petty Officer Grace Williams answered from engineering. "The device is online and charged. Sir, Dr. Wright's calculations show it should disable their shields for at least 15 minutes. Nick smiled. Grace was a miracle worker. She had taken the quantum frequency disruptor that Dr. Wright designed and somehow fitted it into a human warship. The device was experimental and dangerous, but it was humanity's best hope for evening the odds. "All stations, prepare for battle," Nick announced. "This is what we've been training for." The Liberty was not alone. 6 other human ships had gathered for this mission, all equipped with the new frequency disruptors. They were still outnumbered, but for the first time since the war began, they had a chance. The Zephyrian fleet moved in perfect formation there, crystalline ships reflecting the light of the distant sun. They approached with the confidence of predators who had never known defeat. For 3,000 years, no species had been able to challenge their technological superiority. They expected this battle to be like all the others. Quick, decisive, and completely one-sided. They were wrong. "Target the lead ship," Nick ordered.
Our vessel.
"Fire frequency disruptors on my mark." The human ships spread out into an attack formation that would have been impossible with their old technology. The captured Zephyrian engines allowed them to move and turn like fighters instead of the slow, clunky vessels they used to be. Mark, Nick called. 7 beams of energy shot out from the human ships, each one calibrated to the exact frequency that Dr. Wright had discovered. The beams struck the Zephyrian fleet, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the alien shields flickered and died. "Direct hit," Carol reported with excitement. "Their shields are down across the entire fleet." Nick felt his heart racing. It was working. After months of running and hiding, humanity was finally able to fight back on equal terms. "All ships, attack pattern Delta," Nick ordered. "Hit them hard before they can adapt." The human fleet charged forward, their weapons blazing. Without their shields, the Zephyrian ships were vulnerable for the first time in the war. Human missiles and energy beams tore through alien holes like paper, but the aliens were not helpless. Even without shields, their weapons were still deadly. Blue energy beams lanced out from the Zephyrian ships, striking the human vessels with devastating force. The Earth defense ship Portland took a direct hit to its engine section. The ship spun out of control, trailing fire and debris. Nick watched in horror as the Portland broke apart, taking 47 brave souls with it. "Focus fire on the command ship," Nick ordered, his voice hard with anger. "Make them pay for every ship they take." The battle raged across the space around Mars. Human ships darted between the larger alien vessels, using their superior maneuverability to avoid the worst of the enemy fire. The Zephyrians tried to reform their battle line. but their rigid tactics were useless against opponents who refused to fight fair. Lieutenant Carol Davis pulled a maneuver that would have been impossible in the old days. She dove the Liberty under a Zephyrian cruiser, rolled inverted, and fired a full spread of missiles into the alien ship's belly. The cruiser exploded in a ball of fire and twisted metal. "Another one down," she reported with grim satisfaction. Nick looked at the tactical display. 3 alien ships destroyed, 2 more badly damaged. The human fleet had lost 2 ships, but they were winning. Actually winning a space battle against the Zephyrian Empire. "Sir, the aliens are trying to retreat," reported Ensign Paul Martinez from the communications station. "They're calling for reinforcements." Nick felt a surge of triumph. The mighty Zephyrian Empire was retreating from a battle. It was the first time in 3,000 years that it happened. "Let them run," Nick said, "but send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the frequency disruptors work. Tell them we can beat these things." The surviving Zephyrian ships jumped to hyperspace, leaving the humans in control of the Mars system. It was a small victory in a galaxy-wide war. But it was the first real victory humanity had achieved in space. Back on Earth, the news of the battle spread like wildfire. General Patricia Hayes watched the battle reports in her underground command. Sinter, hardly believing what she was seeing, human ships had not only survived a fight with the Zephyrians, they had won. "Get me Admiral Ben Parker," Hayes ordered. "It's time to plan our next move." Admiral Parker appeared on the communication screen a few minutes later. He was commanding the human fleet from a hidden base in the asteroid belt, preparing for larger battles to come. "General, did you see the Mars report?" Parker asked. "I saw it." "How soon can we equip more ships with the frequency disruptors?" "Dr. Wright's team is working around the clock. They think they can outfit 50 ships within the next month. But we need to be careful. The aliens will adapt their technology once they figure out what we're doing." Hayes nodded. The Zephyrians were not stupid. They would analyze the battle and find ways to counter the frequency disruptors. Humanity had a small window of opportunity, and they needed to use it wisely. "What about the intelligence from the captured scientist?" Hayes asked. "Dr. Rodriguez has been debriefing with our analysts. She confirms that the aliens are building some kind of super weapon in Nevada. We don't stop it, it could wipe out the resistance completely." Hayes felt a chill run down her spine. The Zephyrians had been holding back their most powerful weapons, probably trying to keep the human population alive for slave labor. But if they were building a super weapon, it meant they were getting desperate. "We need to hit that facility," Hayes decided. "How soon can we mount an attack?" "The Nevada facility is heavily defended. We'll need at least 20 ships with frequency disruptors, plus ground support. Give me 2 weeks to prepare." "You have 1 week," Hayes said. "If they finish that weapon, it won't matter how many battles we win." Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Liberty, Nick Johnson was looking at the wreckage of the alien ships floating in space around Mars, for the first time since the invasion began. He felt hope. Real hope. "Sir, we're getting reports from resistance cells around the galaxy," Carol reported. "Word of our victory is spreading. Other species are starting to fight back against the Zephyrians." Nick smiled. That was the thing about hope. Was contagious. For 3,000 years, the galaxy had lived in fear of the Zephyrian Empire. Every species had been told that resistance was useless, that the aliens were invincible, but humanity had proven that was a lie. The Zephyrians could be beaten, their technology could be disrupted, their ships could be destroyed. And once that knowledge spread, the entire galaxy would rise up against their oppressors. "Set course for Earth," Nick ordered. "We have a war to win." The Liberty turned toward the blue-green planet in the distance, carrying news of humanity's first space victory. The tide of war was turning, and for the first time in months, the future looked bright. The Zephyrian Empire was learning that some species were harder to conquer than others, and humanity was just getting started. Fleet Admiral Julie Martinez stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Independence, watching the stars streak past as her fleet moved toward the Zephyrian home system. 2 years had passed since the first victory at Mars, and the war had spread across the entire galaxy. What started as a desperate fight for survival had become a crusade for freedom. "Admiral, "We're approaching the Zephyr system," reported Commander Sam Roberts from the navigation station. "Long-range sensors are picking up massive energy signatures around the fourth planet." Julie nodded grimly. Zephyr Prime, the ancient capital of the alien empire. For 3,000 years, no enemy had ever threatened this world. The Zephyrians had built their entire civilization around the belief that their home was untouchable. Today, that belief would be shattered. "How many ships are we facing?" Julie asked. "Sensors show at least 500 vessels in defensive positions around the planet," replied Lieutenant Commander Beth Cooper. "It's their entire remaining fleet." Julie looked at the tactical display. The human armada consisted of 200 ships, all equipped with the latest frequency disruptors and weapons built from captured alien technology. They were outnumbered, but they had something the Zephyrians had lost during the Long War. They had the will to fight. "All ships, this is Admiral Martinez," Julie announced over the fleet communication system. "Today we end this war. Show the galaxy that no species has the right to enslave another. For everyone we've lost, for every world they've burned, we fight." The journey to Zephyr Prime had taken 2 years of running battles across the galaxy. Julie remembered every system they had liberated, every species they had freed from Zephyrian rule. The bird-like people of Kepler 44 to be who had been enslaved for 500 years. The ocean dwellers of Proxima Centauri who had never seen the surface of their own world. The rock creatures of Wolf 359 who had been forced to mine their own planet for alien masters. All of them were fighting now. Ships from dozens of species formed the Liberation Fleet, united by a common hatred of their oppressors and inspired by the example of the humans who had shown them that freedom was possible. "Enemy fleet is moving to intercept," reported the tactical officer. "They're forming a standard defensive wall." Julie smiled coldly. Even now, facing the destruction of their empire, the Zephyrians could not break their rigid thinking. 8. Fought the same way they had for 3,000 years, following the same tactics that had once conquered the galaxy. "Signal the fleet," Julie ordered. "Attack pattern chaos. Show them what real warfare looks like." The human fleet spread out into a formation that would have been impossible with their old technology. Ships darted and weaved through space, refusing to form the neat battle lines that the Zephyrians expected. Each captain was free to choose their own targets and tactics, creating a chaotic battle that the aliens could not predict or counter. The first exchange of fire lit up the darkness of space. Zephyrian energy beams lanced out toward the human ships, but most of them found empty space. The Liberation Fleet had learned to fight like humans, unpredictable and wild. "Fire frequency disruptors," Julie commanded. Beams of energy shot out from every human ship, each one calibrated to disrupt the quantum frequency that powered alien technology. The Zephyrian shields flickered and died, leaving their ships vulnerable for the first time in the war. But the aliens had learned too. In the 2 years since the battle at Mars, they had modified their technology to resist the frequency disruptors. The shields came back online within minutes, stronger than before. "They've adapted," Beth reported. "The disruptors are only working for short periods." Julie had expected this. The Zephyrians were not stupid, and they had excellent engineers. But humanity had been preparing for this moment. "Activate the cascade disruptors," Julie ordered. Dr. Amanda Wright had spent the last year developing a new weapon. Instead of disrupting a single frequency, the cascade disruptors attacked multiple quantum bands at once, overwhelming the alien defenses with sheer variety. It was more complex and used more power, but it was also impossible to counter. The second wave of disruptor fire struck the Zephyrian fleet, and this time the shields stayed down. Human missiles and energy beams tore through alien hulls, destroying ships that had seemed invincible just moments before. "Direct hit on their command ship," reported the weapons officer. "It's breaking apart." Julie watched as the massive Zephyrian flagship, a crystal palace that had ruled the galaxy for centuries, split in half and exploded. The destruction was beautiful and terrible, like watching a star die, but the battle was far from over. The Zephyrians fought with the desperation of creatures who knew they were facing extinction. Their ships rammed human vessels, their weapons overloaded to do maximum damage even as they died. The Earth defense ship, Portland, the same name as the ship lost at Mars, took a direct hit to its reactor core. The explosion was so bright that Julie had to shield her eyes. 38 humans died in an instant, but their sacrifice was not in vain. The Portland's death cleared the way for 3 other ships to attack the alien battle line. "Admiral, we're getting reports from the planetary surface," Sam called out. "Zephyrian ground forces are surrendering. The population is in revolt." Julie felt a surge of satisfaction. Zephyrians had ruled through fear and superior technology. Without their fleet to protect them, they were just another species trying to survive. "Signal the surrender vessels," Julie ordered. "Tell them we accept their capitulation, but find me Commander Vexthal. I want to speak with him personally." Yeah. It took another hour to finish the battle. The Zephyrian fleet was completely destroyed. Their once mighty empire reduced to scattered refugees fleeing into deep space. The Liberation fleet had lost 47 ships, but they had accomplished something that once seemed impossible. They had conquered the conquerors. Julie found Commander Vexthal in the ruins of the planetary command center. The alien who had once demanded Earth's surrender now knelt among the wreckage of his civilization, his red eyes dim with defeat. "Commander," Julie said, her voice steady and calm, "do you remember your first message to Earth? You gave us 24 hours to surrender or face extinction." Vexthal looked up at her, his scaled face showing emotions that Julie had never seen before. Fear, sadness, and something that might have been respect. "I remember," he said through his translator. "You chose to fight. You chose to be free," Julie corrected. "And now we're offering the same choice to every species in the galaxy." "How?" Vexthal asked, his voice broken. "How did you defeat us?" "We had superior technology, superior numbers, superior everything." Julie thought about the question. She remembered Captain Jake Morrison making the decision to fight despite impossible odds. She remembered Major Kate Sullivan crawling through sewers to plant bombs. She remembered Dr. Amanda Wright working in an underground lab to find the alien's weakness. She remembered every human who had died to make this moment possible. "You forgot something important," Julie said finally. "You forgot that some things are worth dying for. You conquered the galaxy through fear and technology, but you never understood what makes a species truly strong." "And what is that?" Vexthal asked. "The willingness to sacrifice everything for freedom. The refusal to accept that might make..." "Right, the belief that every species deserves to choose its own destiny." Julie looked out through the shattered windows of the command center at the ships in orbit. Human vessels, yes, but also ships from dozens of other species. The galaxy was free, but freedom came with responsibility. "The Zephyrian Empire is over," Julie announced. "But we're not here to replace you as rulers. We're here to make sure that no species ever rules over another again." As Julie spoke, reports were coming in from across the galaxy. On 1,000 worlds, slaves were breaking their chains. Species that had been conquered centuries ago were reclaiming their homeworlds. The age of empire was ending, and the age of cooperation was beginning. The war was over. Humanity had won. But the real work was just beginning.